Good evening, Thomas. We're a little bit derailed a little bit thanks to my poor performance here with some things going on. But in any case, the show must go on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you may notice there's a little bit of a different blurring behind Mike.
Yeah, not quite yet, but I'm still doing it out of the old castle.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Gotcha. Almost. I just quite couldn't. I'm in the process of moving, and it's been it's my first big move, like my own home type thing. So it's a big learning curve for myself. Anyway, I had to delay for some car issues. And anyway, doesn't matter. But here we are.
They almost had to call in the Choppa for you.
Well,
to rescue you.
I needed it. I needed some rescuing for sure. I'm Mike, and my co-host joins me as Thomas, and we are the Nerdom, and this is our main show. And we are covering Predator 1, the original in 1987, and Predator 2 from 1990. So I kind of spoiled it a little bit because I asked you I should have saved the question for like when we started the show here just a little bit ago. But so you had said that you had kind of sort of seen this off and on, but never really finished the entire movie.
Yeah. I think if for longtime viewers know that I was a bit of a movie snob back in the day, and I didn't. If it was purely just an action movie. That really wasn't what appealed to me at that time. So even though it had Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, and it was more of a sci-fi action with maybe a little bit of horror to it, I always kind of thought I might want to watch it, but I never got around to it because I thought, well, yeah, it's more or less just an action movie. And so a few years back, I decided it was on one of the streaming services, and I was gonna watch it, and I got about a third of the way in, and I guess something distracted me. I never did finish it. So yeah, this is my first all the way viewing of the first one, and definitely my first viewing of the second Predator movie.
Awesome. Yeah. This one I've been kind of wanting to do for a little bit. This is like so as we all know, there's different classifications of movies that we all love. Some are guilty pleasures, some are just the entertainment and escapism that is a pure movie. Some of it doesn't make any sense. You just like watch it for whatever reason. And some movies are truly great, and some movies are truly bad. How did you? So you back in the day, you were not impressed with the whole Predator franchise at all? Didn't really catch your fancy? Has that changed since you watched these two this week, or did it kind of give you a taste for it, or are you still kind of, oh, that's nice, but it's not really for me?
Yeah, well, it's more or less action. My take on not only action movies, but horror movies and comedies and everything that I watch. I look for something that's kind of off kilter, at least something a little weird about it, so that the stuff that appeals to me, obviously David Lynch, and even like, say, I love the Planet of the Apes movies because they're odd. There's apes running things, whereas like I used to tell my friends, if you put a monkey in an odd situation, you have me. But if it's so like some nature movie about apes, I could care less. But if you got them running running a city, you got me then. And so I always like things that are a little off base, or something you normally wouldn't see. So this being a pure action movie where an alien is hunting down it's interesting. But one of the things, another thing that it pertains to just action things in general, if there's not a hook for me, if it's just pure action, I kind of get kind of my mind kind of becomes numb and I get distracted easily. That's the same for like big anime battles when you're watching an anime and it's a big battle where
Goes on
there's
too long.
I'm kind of confused on the stakes of the battle. I get kind of not disinterested, but my brain just kind of turns off. And same way with some of the Marvel universe area, cinematic universe movies. A lot of times it just kind of devolves in the last half of the movie into just pure action, and my brain just kind of turns off for that stuff. If there's nothing there, if there's not really big hooks that emotional hooks that kind of keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And before we dive into too much further, I just wanted to plug our channel on YouTube.
Mhm.
We're up. We have currently we have 3 shows throughout the week. We have our main event, which usually occurs on Sunday, Monday night, except for when Mike is moving and has technical difficulties with his vehicle. Aside from that, that's the format. And then Wednesdays is our grab bag. That's probably one of my more favorite ones that we can just get to let our hair down and just kind of go and recommend different things or talk about different comic book topics, as well as YouTube as well. That's kind of a slow creeping surprise, I think, is that we kind of just done that. In any case, and then for our second iteration through our mini show on Fridays, or whatever we call it, it was originally Thomas's first watch through of season 1 of Next Generation, and now we pivoted to the 21st century to Strange New Worlds, and that is on Fridays. And we would love it if you could join us on any one of those. And if you have feedback or you want us to cover another topic, we would love to hear from you. But we always no strangers to that. But anyway, I just want to plug our show real quick, and then with that being said, we can jump into our primary show. I was told by a friend who watches occasionally, said you need to talk about your show more. It's not just that, but you need to do more plugs. So there we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
that definitely helps. Yeah, that's we get to get into the groove of things and we just assume everybody knows everything. But yeah, as Stan Lee used to say about comic books, that every single issue of a comic book is going to be someone's first comic, whereas our video may, it could be someone's very first video that they watch of ours, so we should treat it treat it as such.
Good point. Now, thanks for the shout out. I appreciate that. In any case, the Predator. This one was I think it was a big risk for Fox. I don't know too much of the historical background, but I do believe it was a risk for them. They were still, Arnold Schwarzenegger still wasn't a for sure thing. I actually can't remember when Terminator came out, but I believe Terminator was a big breakout hit. I didn't think it was before. I want to say it was before. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So Arnold Schwarzenegger was far from a household name. Nobody still knew who he was back then. He was breaking into the action movie scene, so to speak. But in any case, this was the kickoff to the Predator franchise. Little did they know what this would become. And in some ways, some would argue, if you do watch this, watch the first one, maybe watch the second one, stop there. If you love it, stop there. Because there was an intertwining between this and the Aliens franchise. Over time, Alien came first, excuse me. I always do that, but in any case, this has our first rush of death with a highly SOCOM special operator types that were contacted by the government to go down into, I think, Nicaragua or to South America somewhere. And then I think the premise is they have to rescue a dignitary or somebody important, and then it kind of devolves into this is not their normal mission, and they quickly find out after some brush-ins with that. But doesn't take itself seriously. It is an action movie, 100%. This is like one of those that straddles the line. It's definitely an action movie. I'd argue that it's more of an action movie than a sci-fi one. But it still can, it's easily science fiction too. But
Yeah.
definitely a stronger action movie, I think, than it is a sci-fi movie per se. If we're gonna split hairs, but
Yeah.
what was your take on the premise and how it opened up and the background? I mean, did you think it was a little bit dated as you watched it? Didn't age well, or I guess what was your opinion?
Well, yeah, I was kind of reading up on the history of it on the Wikipedia, and I think the writers are John and Jim Thomas. They weren't big screenwriters, so it took them a little while to shop it around, and I think they shoved it under some big producer's door or something to get it. And the genesis of the story was someone was joking with them about, Rocky, after Rocky 4, he had fought just about everybody on the planet, so he would have to fight aliens in the next one to make it interesting. And so they thought, well, what if an alien came down and challenged humans? So that was the genesis of the story. And so kind of interesting. And I guess originally the story was just going to be the Dutch character fighting aliens through an alien through the movie. And then I think Arnold said that he wanted a group of people. I think he just did Commando, and he got some of the actors from that to join the cast, and he wanted more of an ensemble, which makes sense because the movie is less than 2 hours. I think it's an hour and 45 minutes, which is probably a perfect time for a action movie. If it was made today, talking about being dated or not, it would have been over a 2-hour movie, which obviously it doesn't need to be. I think this could have been trimmed down to an hour and a half, and would have maybe it ran a little bit better for me. But yeah, it went along in a nice clip. You got to know the characters. The whole thing about taglines and whatnot, they're great for, I guess, the trailer, for Arnold Schwarzenegger, to say getting the chopper, which getting the chopper made sense during it, but the whole attack on the little compound when he was busting through and like killing people and like saying you're, I forget some of the taglines, but they made him off like a psychopath during those moments where he would kill somebody and say something witty. It's like you're that okay. That's a little creepy. You want us to like this guy, right?
Yeah, I can agree with that to a point, for sure.
So that part is a little dated because everybody was doing their catchphrases and taglines during that time. So it made sense. Yeah, it made sense at the time, but now going back and watching it cold, it kind of stands out as what?
Yeah, it definitely has that some clunky parts there, and but this is the genesis of a lot of modern day memes, and it has been for a while. There's the scene where Dutch and the other character are doing the very macho, we love you, bro, kind of arm slap, and that's a meme. There's the get to the Choppa one. There's all kinds, for sure.
Yeah, and then the classic action movie trope of he's the best there is. We gotta get the best guy. And what did Dutch do that made him stand out as the best of what he does? I was having trouble.
I think he was a really tall, big dude with a lot of muscles, and he acted and talked like that. So I think probably 99% of that is he looks the part, I guess, if you think about and true to form. This is like I scrolled down there and somebody made a comment like this is a effortlessly 80s action movie or something like that. That's not far off the mark. It's very 80s. There's a lot of tropes that they played through that kind of were picked up and made fun of in the 90s even. when we had a string of those satire movies that were just all the rage for like I think good part of the 90s, probably more closer to like mid and late 90s, if you recall, like the in the vein of like Airplane from way back in the day. And I can't think of these scary movies what I'm thinking of, but they could borrow and steal from different things, and this one is pretty serious off the blush. Essentially, the mission doesn't really matter. The secondary characters don't matter. It's really just setting up the plot so that we can have this big battle royale between something else out there that we don't know, that scares the crap out of us, or potentially could, and this group of the toughest of the best, you know. Facing it.
If you're going for best of the best, I would think Billy, I guess he's Native American or whatever. He seemed to have all the tricks of the trade of as far as what tracking things and detecting traps or whatever.
They definitely hit some like you have your token character so to speak, like G.I. Joe. You have your, I can't remember, but you have all kinds, like that's an interesting observation. But a little bit of trivia, I do believe Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to be the Predator. I
saw that. He was too short.
His ego got in the way, and it just wasn't working. And they were like, "Well, it just doesn't work." And I think he's a little bit more difficult. I think he was speaking of prima donnas, he was definitely a prima donna back then. Of course, he was hitting his stride too as a primary action star character too as well. There were several, probably but in any case, in the war, he just didn't quite make the cut.
Hey, I think I just noticed something that Shane Black as Hawkins. Click on him. Isn't he a big director now? Didn't he direct one of the Predators, or am I thinking of a different Black?
He might have. So this is writer credits. So let's go to director credits. So
he did do writer directed the Predator. So he actually started in the first one. That's interesting. I did not know.
Yeah, and this one, I'm trying to figure out what this one. I think this was one of the. I don't think this was one of the newer ones.
It was.
But it was like the. It was a more modern day one. But we did. That's really cool that he actually directed this one, and he actually starred in the first one. That's really cool. Good shout out. Good call.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, and these essentially these characters. Billy, I think, was kind of like the brains, to kind of speak to all the brawn that you see, and then everybody else just like slowly turning into 13-year-old girls, screaming and crying as they get picked off one by one over time, and then the creep factor kind of goes off of like. There's something out there, and it will get you and gut you.
And one of the things that everybody kept saying, "Oh, Jesse Ventura's in it, Jesse Ventura," and then so I was expecting something big for his character, and all he does is get a. Well, I mean, he meets a unfortunate demise, but he didn't really do much in this movie.
I remember him from the fact of like, his obvious WWF, or whatever WWF career, and I think the other thing I remember is like that he had a big old wad of tobacco.
Yeah, that was about it.
And then that was about it. It's not much.
And then
trying to see like. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that there's supposed to be this big secret ops team that was going in to infiltrate, and then with the compound scene, they just go in and blow everything up. Lots of explosions. I was like, so this is them being tactical.
They're pretty much they're it's spray and pray. Essentially, that's the entire. That is the end total of their tactics. Of course, this is very dumbed down 80s. We don't have the high speed kind of uber level tier, kind of military tactics and things that kind of some thought kind of goes into them and this and that. But nope, this is just a wall of bullets and let's go.
And I kept saying, isn't there supposed to be hostages? Why are they blowing everything up? Killing everybody they see. And then they blew up the chopper there, and that they might have been able to use to at least evacuate some of them.
This is true.
If they had actually saved a hostage, maybe they could have got them out.
Alas, it was not to be. There was a higher purpose for our action star heroes here. They had I think probably the second biggest stars, or third biggest star would be the guns that they used. I just remember that big Gatling gun thing, that monstrosity, which nobody in the real world would carry in a battle, which was obviously Hollywood, and you had all these other things here, there, and everywhere. It was just interesting. But they did go after them, and essentially Predator, for one thing, they don't know what's going on. They hadn't figured it out yet until it dawned on them. I think the interpreter that they rescued, or they ended up saving, was saying something about ghost or something else, and unintelligible to them. They just kind of wrote it off as hysterics or just being scared. I'm trying to find the actress's name, but in any case, Anna. But in any case, we don't have to wait too long. I agree with you. If it were nowadays, it probably would be way over 2 hours, probably be close to 3, which is interesting. But the hour, I could see we're at 15 minutes cut here or there. There's not a lot of exposition. It's just kind of rolling from one scene to another. It's not too far away from Commando, which was another personal favorite of mine growing up. Just action stars, just one of those fun ones to watch. But in any case, here we have our heroes, and essentially they are being quartered and drawn and whittled down until essentially it's just down to Arnold, and that's it. And then I think he did tuck away Anna in a safe spot.
He told her to get to the Choppa.
That's true. That's true. And then also the Predator, as you kind of are introduced to this fearsome, massively tall alien that is just hell-bent on killing and hunting and killing these characters. Pretty much the rules kind of sort of become canon, or they start to emerge, so to speak. And this movie, when it came out, was so far from having a canon or whatever. I'm sure they made plot points and they stuck them in there because they worked or whatever. But now we find out that this Predator does not attack unarmed people. So it can see that difference in how it does. Of course, it was big.
And the big question is, why didn't they all throw down their weapons and just kind of start dancing through the the jungle to the chopper?
This is a good point. I'm not quite sure what would have happened in there, and I'm sure there's some Predator nerd out there who could school us on the I'm trying to think of the alien name of it starts with a Y. It's anyway. Maybe it'll come back, but in any case, what really took this off to doing this series was there's a forthcoming Predator coming movie in August, I believe, called Prey. We're really going to get into that one because I think the original. I think that you're better served if you if you definitely are a fan. Go certainly everything. This is the top of the mountain. There is no top of the mountain after this one. Predator 2 can be argued to be a smaller peak, more humble peak, but anything after that point, you're more like on a hill or in a valley compared to the mountain that became Predator. Is a loose analogy, but in any case, is essentially we have our hero Arnold, and he is facing off, and then all of a sudden he's doing all these kind of, essentially they ran out of bullets, or he's abandoning bullets because they're just not working. So he's going to do it. I'm trying primitive style. He's gonna go in and figure out what the weaknesses are for this, and he kind of gets a clue of like what this creature, how it operates, and he tries to take advantage of that in some things. And then you have these big elaborate booby traps and this and that. And
well, the I guess it's I guess you could say it's a big kind of a comic book movie in that the logic isn't always there. Like he goes down like a series of waterfalls, and he ends up out of that, completely refreshed and washed off and whatnot. And then what he decides to do is just bury his face into mud and covering himself in mud for no apparent reason, except for the fact that he finds out that for some reason a small layer of mud's gonna throw off the heat-seeking device that the predator has, which I don't know. If I was the predator, I'd have that checked out. I think you could probably see some heat signatures below the mud, but yeah. It's kind of funny that with Dutch being such the best of the best, he just kind of stumbles upon this mud thing
right
by happenstance. Yeah. And then he goes into in beast mode, as they say, and
right
sets up all these various traps that I don't know. I didn't really see how Dutch kind of led him through the various traps, but
I'm not going to
maybe
pretend to know either.
yeah.
I just kind of suspend disbelief and okay, this is what we're doing now. That's cool. That happens a lot of times in movies nowadays too, like where the cinematography maybe isn't all the way complete, or they had to do some kind of cuts or edits or something, and then I'll find myself be like, sometimes in movies, I can't think of one for example, but that is true. Like I'll find myself lost. Like, wait, hold on a sec. We were in the hangar, and now we're in the air, and now what the hell are we doing on top of the mountain? How do we get here? It kind of things like that. But this is definitely not. It didn't win any awards for its cinematography for sure. Its camera shots.
Yeah. And one of the other things that kind of annoyed me was the soundtrack. I don't know. It was just kind of over the top and very, I guess, kind of a 70s or 80s type soundtrack. Yeah.
Very bombastic and loud, for sure. To
exactly.
I think it tried to be as big and brash as it's as what you were seeing on the screen. You have this one badass action hero, but then you see this massively tall alien compared to Arnold, and Arnold is not a small guy by any means. And just physically imposing, and not only that, but the alien the predator has a Yao Chui, or I think I'm butchering the name, but that's the name of the species of the alien or of this predator, but it's invisible. It can see in heat, thermal vision or whatever, and it has this green oozy blood that's glow in the dark, essentially. And that's kind of like when they hear something, they kind of think they see something, and then they let loose. This is when they initially encountered this creature. They let loose with a wall of bullets, and everybody's just dumbfounded that they don't find a body or something, but they do find a little bit of that oozy glow in the dark blood. And they're like, "What the hell is this?" And that's when it kind of tips over, and they realize there's something else out here that we should pay attention to.
Yeah, and I think the guy that they ended up getting to play the predator, Kevin Hall, he usually plays like the various characters. It sounds like you're getting a little echo with me on your sound mic.
Yeah, let me bring myself. I'm going to mute myself while you talk.
Okay. All right, but yeah, so Kevin Hall, he kind of I think he started with Harry and the Hendersons playing Harry, and he's I think over 7 feet tall, so they got him to play the predator because he's super tall. And one of the things that they talk about in the Wikipedia is how hot and horrible it was in Mexico, and you could see in like the scenes where there's just sweat pouring from all of the characters, all the actors and whatnot. You have to feel for the guy that was in the predator outfit, because I'm sure that was killer. He's I think in those interviews he says it was a nightmare, which I could believe. Mhm. But yeah, so but yeah, it's I know I've been kind of down on a lot of the movie, but it is a fun movie. You can kind of turn your brain off and kind of watch it. There's plenty of things like a lot of the special effects aren't outdated with it, like the whole invisible, his being able to fade into the scenery, kind of interesting. It's an interesting effect. It could be like really outdated, but it's only slightly outdated looking. It doesn't look
Yeah,
too terrible.
I'd agree with that. I agree with you. I think the special effects and whatnot held up pretty well. For the most part, it's a classic for
Mhm.
sure on the sci-fi side as well as the action movie side. It's just kind of funny how that landed. And but the what you're saying are all fair shots. What nothing you're saying is anything that anybody hasn't already said before. Like when it came out, I don't think they took it seriously, and it became more of a cult sleeper hit essentially, and it kind of went from there. It just grew from there essentially. It made enough money to warrant the second one, which we'll get into here momentarily, shortly. But this was the
Yeah.
groundbreaker. This was like
Mhm.
still a big, Arnold was on the way up.
Mhm.
You had your other supporting actors. I think probably the biggest miss, but I think it worked out. I don't think this movie would have worked out with Van Damme as Predator had he actually, been there to complete the whatever, or had they resolved any issues for that. I don't see that happening because he's kind of like Stallone, where famously it was said Stallone did a Judge Dredd movie. Speaking of comic book movies, and Stallone, and of course anybody who knows the canon and the character of Judge Dredd, he never takes off his helmet. Period. You don't see him take it off. And that's kind of the intention of the movie, was to film it that way. And Stallone was like, "No way, man. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to. No, I'm not. I want my face. I'm the star, And as a result, nobody brings up the original Judge Dredd with Stallone because it's terrible. I mean, it's
Yeah.
okay in its own right, I
Right.
suppose, but
Well, and
it's
that's
garbage compared to the Carl Urban version,
Yeah.
which was quite a few years later.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the
And
difference
that's
in prima donna-ness for sure.
mhm. There's something to be said for staying true to characters. Like I think the new Halo TV series is getting a lot of flack from the fans of the game because the Master Chief in it takes off his helmet and he's not
Yeah,
supposed to take his helmet off on that. But we won't get into
I've heard.
that because I'm not a huge Halo fan and no interest in watching the show. So,
Same here. Yeah,
so
no,
I don't have a bone to pick in that fight.
yeah, I don't either. But I would say sometimes there are characters that call for quality acting and whatnot. And then just to bring up, and this is a long dead controversy. It wasn't even a controversy, but those two dichotomy. Like you have a Carl Urban with Dredd. It was like 2015 or 2016. I'll look it up in a little bit. And then you have the original kind of jokey, not taken seriously Judge Dredd with Stallone, and you have two different movies. But and I have heard that controversy. I played a little bit of Halo, but it wasn't really my jam growing up. I mean, when I was video gaming seriously and a little bit harder core than I don't really do that now anymore today. But and I know a lot of people who love that movie, or I mean, they love that franchise and everything else. And essentially, sometimes we have. I don't even think it's the content creators. I think it's the money makers at the studios, the ones that push the decisions across the way, that make those compromises, and they sacrifice the integrity of what people love. Just because they think they can do it better. And sometimes very rarely they can do it better, but most often than not, they can't. They don't. They
Yeah.
lose the spirit or the appeal of the thing. But and that's kind of and that's a good segue to what happened to the Predator franchise. They just didn't quite get all the original pieces back together. They got close. They even tried to have a excuse me, tag team event, so to speak, with throwing alien xenomorphs in the mix. Didn't quite take off. some now I will say this, as much as I say you should stop watching at Predator 2, maybe even Predator 1, and then just be done, is because I am a big I love the franchise and I love the thing. Even if it's bad, I'll still watch it. I still have love in my heart for Prometheus and even Covenant to a lesser degree. No, those two are not anywhere near as pivotal as the original Alien or Aliens. Nobody talks about Aliens 3, but that's a whole different thing. But Predator, as it kind of iterated again and again, they just kept hitting, wall after wall after wall. It could be argued maybe that Adrian Brody's version back in the mid-teens, 20 teens, was probably a very coherent stab at it. And you can enjoy it for different reasons. I think Topher Grace was in that one too. It drew some star power. I think it made enough money for them to warrant doing more with it in the future, but it's just not quite the same as the original. And there's a reason for that. Is because they didn't take it seriously. I mean, they took it seriously, but they didn't, it was just a different era of movie making, for sure. And then that's reflective of all the things that we're talking about here. But all in all, what did you like it? Did you did you have any kind of appreciation for it, or you kind of could take it or leave it?
I enjoyed it. I was kind of thinking about back on the action movies that I like, and one of them you mentioned was Judge Dredd, and I love that movie, The Raid. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's similar. It's similar to Judge Dredd, and it all takes place in a building, and it's just total chaos as far as fights and whatnot. And I think maybe the physical fighting kind of captivates me more. And then I love the John Woo movies like The Killer and those type of Better Tomorrow, I think is that series as well. But yeah, the Chow Yun Fat is one of my favorite action heroes. But yeah, that I guess I like something a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, it was what it was, and it did it well. So yeah, I won't complain. And there's certain, like you said, there's certain movies I love that you could pick apart. Like say that original Suspiria movie, someone could talk about how there's not really a full story to it. There's the acting's horrible in it, and I couldn't argue that. And it's a lot of it's kind of stylized substance, or stylized colors and whatnot over substance, and I couldn't argue really confidently and prove my point against any of those points. But yeah. And then one other thing I saw in my research of this is that Stan Winston is the guy that he didn't originally design the Predator. It was I think the original design, it was less, he wasn't able to physically move around in it as well as they wanted people to, and it was more of a dog face kind of creature, and that they hired Stan Winston to redesign it, and he was designing it in an airplane next to James Cameron, and Cameron was looking at the design. He goes, I always wanted to have a creature that had mandibles on its mouth, and so that kind of worked its way into the design that Stan Winston did. So that was kind of cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, this you just run down real quick to kind of put a bow on it. But that they were they had,
and it is dated in that the female character doesn't have a scene where she kicks the Predator's ass. That would be in the modern version, which I think in Prey that there's probably going to be that scene.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the message will find its way into certain things. And if you're hip to that, you are. If you're not, no big deal. But it's just it's a different era of movie making. And there's just some silliness and shenanigans that gets in the way for good storytelling is all I think is a good way to kind of, squash
And
it down to that.
it's kind of surprising for a Disney movie. That kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah, because Fox
yeah,
owns this. I
or
mean, excuse me, Disney owns Fox. I
mhm,
believe.
yeah, yeah,
Huh?
yeah,
This is technically a Disney movie, yeah,
yeah. It sure is.
by virtue of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
this one was. It's a guilty a favorite. I love Predator. I love the. Again, this kind of goes also to the premise that less is more. And when less is more is done correctly, you have all kinds of wonderful imagination. Because that's kind of the thing of a good storyteller. Yes, yes, it's good to have CGI and effects and this and that, good acting and to carry the storyline and all that. But if you don't leave some imagination to it, if you don't leave something
Mhm.
out there for folks to kind of grab onto, then they're not going to, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and it works best because it's stripped down, and you have pretty much the comic book effect as far as the characters. You know instantly who they are by how they're
Mhm.
dressed, how they look, how they talk. You don't get a deep backstory for each of them, which nowadays people would be more inclined to do, to slow everything down. This would be more than likely you could make this into like a 6 episode miniseries, and just weigh it down with stuff that doesn't need to be there. One of my favorite horror writers, Jack Ketchum, he could strip down a story to 200 pages or less, and you'd get a full meal. You'd get straight action through the whole thing, and be just totally knocked for a loop. And yeah, unfortunately, a few years ago, he passed away from cancer. But yeah, he was
Oh, I,
one of the best as far as
I
just writing nonstop action horror
yeah,
stuff.
I'm not too familiar with his stuff, but I've heard of him
Mhm,
for sure. But that might be a fascinating show to kind of go in and do a
mhm.
top 10 on something. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and some of his work's been done into movies. If you scroll down a little bit, there's one of them.
The
Yeah,
Girl Next Door.
yeah,
No,
yeah, the girl next door, the book and the movies, way intense. And yeah, I think Red is pretty good. It's about a man that these punks kill his dog, and he decides to seek revenge for his dog. I guess somewhat
never
like
seen John Wick.
John Wick, but
Do you like John Wick? Did you
yeah,
enjoy those movies? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
those have that kind of weird kind of off skew kind of, the whole the whole underground world that's just over the top, and like a
Yeah.
comic book is
Right.
kind of kind of makes things interesting for me.
Yeah. That's a perfect comic book type movie if there ever was one. I don't. I
Mhm,
have no idea what it's based on, but it is the visual equivalent or the cinematic equivalent of like going from panel to panel. I would say
mhm,
that's a great way to describe it for
mhm,
sure. And when an action movie is done right, it also has a similar kind of feel. Like you're not sitting there, I read on the thing here for the thing. It said something about some snafus, or I can't remember what they call them, but they're like there's a lot of common house plants in the jungle.
yeah.
You can see their black plastic pots. Now I want to go watch. I want to go back and watch through and try to find it, but you just never know. But there's just like level of quality, obviously. But this isn't Les Miserables, for the ninth time on the big screen. That has like all kinds of money behind it. Nothing like that. But with that, it does give us a very good taste. And again, I say this. One of the things that's a good thing. I agree with you that the special effects they still hold up well today, despite that. It depends on how good the quality you're watching, obviously. If you're watching at 380p, nothing looks good. But if you're watching at higher normal resolution or whatever, it holds up fairly well. Definitely fine on TV. And I remember seeing this. This is always like one of those like where when we lived in the era of network TV and occasional cable here or there when folks could afford it, even basic cable. this was like one that would be always on TBS or TNT or USA or those those old school networks that just played. They would have like a weekend thing around it, or just little cool little things. Which that's a long gone era.
Yeah, yeah. And when we used to go to we would rent movies on VHS every weekend. When I'd go into a video place, I always look for something weird and unusual. So I, I think one of our coworkers, it said that I had one of the largest collections of movies that no one has ever seen. So yeah. But yeah, so I was there's something, I guess, innate in me in that I always used to go looking for the obscure, the just hunt down that rare gem that no one else knows about.
Yeah, for sure.
Which it's harder to do now. It's that everybody's everywhere on the internet. So before I find something, someone else has already discovered it. But
right. Well, but still, I'm not quite the same, but I definitely have a catalog of movies that I like to bring around, that I like to keep and maintain over the years. Ones that I just really love. There's a stupid dumb movie that I like to watch every spring. That's Battle LA with I can't think of the guy's name. Aaron Eckhart. Aaron Eckhart is in that one. I don't know what it is, but I just love that movie, and it's one of those that I love to watch. There's a few other favorites like that you just like to watch or rewatch periodically. Occasionally, Predator is not on that list, but it does come up, and some of this is good. I don't think you go wrong if you've never seen this, unless you just are averse to action movies. It's not too gory. It does have some blood for sure, but it's tempered by the 80s. So they're not.
Yeah.
And
Have you
further movies, which we'll get into a lot more, there is much more graphic. Just, I mean, you imagine it, and it's just, it's a slaughterhouse. Not quite as bad as nowadays, but or horror movies that are essentially just slaughterhouses, and I just don't care to see any of that crap. And not because like I'm turned off by it. It's just because, tell me a story, like make me intellectually scared, make me like, no, don't just make me revile it. I could, that's not to my taste, but God bless you if you like that kind of thing. You psycho if you like that kind of, I'm kidding, but ones that make you think, and they leave you. The best movies are like Suspiria, where you just don't know how to feel. And definitely for the other movie, the Ichi, Kill Me, or
Ichi the Killer. Yeah.
IG the Killer. Yeah, that is just like, oh my God. Like I need to take a shower. Like I just feel.
Yeah, and
like,
on that note of those type of movies, have you ever had a experience where you're like talked your friend into maybe watching a movie, but because you love the movie, but then while you watch it with your friend, you see it through you start seeing it through their eyes, or a stranger's eyes, and you start noticing things that were okay with you, but you realize, okay, that's probably not going over so well with that person.
Yep. Even to the point like where they just weren't into it, and you could just clearly tell that they were just weren't into it. You just turn it off or something, like even that to that point. But sometimes like I had friends that would just roll through it, and that's definitely true for sure.
Or have you run into a situation where you intentionally tried to make someone uncomfortable with something you want to watch?
No, I don't think I have per se, because of my repertoire of like scary movies and whatnot just is in my normal wheelhouse. Like there are ones that I like to pull out once in a while, like if there's a group of friends or something, and and we're
Mhm.
kind of like we're trying to figure out what to watch or whatever.
Mhm.
More so when I was younger than nowadays, but
Mhm.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Not quite to that point, but there's actually been movies that I walked out on. There's only 3 movies that I've ever walked out on purpose in my life, where it
Mhm.
wasn't associated with kiddos or life or whatever going
Mhm.
on, but it was just like I'm not going to watch this garbage, and then I would walk out. One of those
Mhm.
was the remake of Hills Have Eyes. That one was just like it just seemed like, and I wasn't familiar with the original, and I really need to go back and watch the
Mhm.
original maybe one of these days. But the remake of
Mhm.
it, I could care less. It was just like, plus it didn't help too. It probably really didn't help that I was just a new parent,
Oh yeah,
and I
no,
had a
that.
couple kids because that
Uh-huh.
kind of that puts you in a little bit more sensitive
Mhm.
spot. If you're, and maybe folks out there with kiddos know what I'm
Mhm.
talking about. Like you're just a little
Mhm.
bit more
Mhm.
tender, I guess, after those
Mhm.
life events, and you're just like,
Yep.
oh, you're like watching this thing, and it's just like,
Mhm.
okay, there's a thing like
Yeah.
with the baby, like one of the creatures, and this and
Mhm.
breastfeeding, and I was just like, I'm done, I'm done.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. And there's, I think with, especially with horror and comedy, there are certain triggers that will affect people differently
Sure,
about whatever subject matter that you're either showing or talking about, that could trigger people, and that's definitely a thing, but that's a personal thing.
right,
So
right.
and it's also um kind of depends on where you're at in at,
Mm,
at a certain time. So like I was very much into really violent things when I was younger, but now I find some of that, if I revisit it, it kind of turns me off now.
hmm.
Just because I don't know if I have a better respect for life, or the things just kind of affect me a little bit more deeply.
Sure.
I have a little bit more sensitive aspect or whatnot, but yeah, that can definitely affect you. But yeah, I guess we're kind of
Yeah,
way off subject, but it's always fun to go off
yeah.
on these
There,
tangents.
everybody has sensibilities, and sometimes they can be trampled on a little bit, and you just don't want a part of it, and that's okay.
Mhm.
That's like it's not definitely. I
Yeah,
if I
yeah,
let you
and
know into like half
uh,
of what I've actually seen in real
mhm.
life, it would be a far different story. But
Yeah,
sometimes you just go with what works, and
hmm
some
yeah,
movies click, and some movies don't.
and I would never say like you walked out of a movie. I would never walk out of a movie and then say, well, no one should be able to see this.
Right?
That
Oh God, no,
that's
no, no, not at
that's
all. That's
that's
too much.
obviously a little too far. The only movie
Yeah.
that I've never walked out on a movie, but the one that I would have walked out of if I wasn't there with friends and they were my ride and they wanted to watch the whole movie was High Spirits. That was
Okay.
one of the worst comedies I've ever seen
Oh
with
man, I haven't
Steve
seen it.
Gutenberg. Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend it. I thought it's so old. It may be good now, but man, I don't think my sense of humor has changed much over the years. So
Sure.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's one of those movies that just tried so hard for the laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Another one I walked out on was Spider-Man 3, but that's just because it was like it was a lot. I was a lot younger then, and I was like, you guys are bastardizing the hell out of Venom and my beloved Venom and Spider-Man, and I reject it. And I was like, I'm done. I can't
Yeah,
remember the other one, but
as
that
the kids would say today, not my Venom.
right, exactly, right. And they definitely made up for it with the remake a few years later. I haven't seen Venom 2, but I've heard that it's okay, not as good as Venom 1. But anyway, and with that, wrapping up on Predator, this is a good, solid action or science fiction.
Yeah,
Pick your genre that you
yeah,
love.
yeah, it's usually in top 10 list of best action movies. So the action guys can't be wrong as far as their action. So
Indeed, indeed, and respect should be given to the king. This was the one that started all the other ones after it. And with that being said, one that I think I personally kind of liked a little bit more than the original, if I'm honest, was Predator 2. And I liked it for different reasons than this one, but I loved how they adapted the story. and they put you in a completely different world than the jungle. You know, they put you into this city jungle. And did you say, I'm sorry, did you say that you had seen this before prior to this week?
No, this
Or
is
yeah,
a fresh watch for me.
awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, and what was your opinion overall?
Yeah, I think
With Danny?
I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than the other one. The other one kind of took itself a little bit more serious, whereas this one, uh, maybe they weren't playing for laughs, but it was it was way more of a comic book movie than the previous one in that it's just way over the top, and it is a very much a science fiction movie set in the future, the
It is.
future of 1997. It was made in 1990, and I was reading in the Wikipedia. Things always go back to Blade Runner. They said that they were kind of going for a kind of a Blade Runner look to for it, and
They kind of, I could kind of sort of see that. But I agree with you for the levity. They did do one thing, I think, in the first movie that they didn't nail down was the comedy, or like the kind of throwaway things. Like
yeah,
if the audience laughed, it wasn't because they made a joke, it was because of something else related to how goofy it was or something like that. But this one, they definitely knew how to weave in some kind of like, deadpan, like these hard-boiled cops that are in this dystopian LA where everybody carries a gun and it's just crazy, and it's too hot and everything is wrong and da 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 da. And everything is, you're like, oh, you're right. Definitely, this one is over the top for sure. But I felt like they
and
knew how to
any
weave that in, that comedy
yeah,
a little bit better.
yeah, any movie that stars Danny Glover and Gary Busey, I'm there. Yeah,
Yeah,
if they made a new movie, it doesn't matter what it is with Danny Glover and Gary Busey in it. Now, to really top it off, if you had Nicolas Cage as the third actor, just give me an action movie with Danny Glover, Gary Busey, and Nicolas Cage now, and I'd be all over it.
And there you are. There you go. Yeah, I'd show up for that. I would show up for
Yeah,
that one for sure. Yeah,
yeah.
Gary Busey, he kind of plays like he's always got this kind of crazy edge look to him, kind of like this psychotic kind of look when he's there, and it works very well for the plot and the setup and everything else. And Danny Glover, he's just a great actor in general. I just enjoy him.
Yeah.
I of course
Yeah.
love Lethal Weapon. Who can mention that without this? But this is I think this is like very very much a 90s movie.
Yeah, you went from the jungle to the urban jungle in this one,
Right.
and that I think that was the pitch. It has the same writers as the previous movie, and they had, I guess they went to the studio with I think 6 different ideas for the sequel, and one of them was the Predator in an urban jungle, and the studio jumped all over that one and said that's the one we want to make. So that's the one they did, and they wanted the main character, as opposed to being the buff guy like Arnold Schwarzenegger. They wanted an everyday Joe kind of like character. So they originally on the Wikipedia said that they originally wanted to cast Patrick Swayze as the everyday Joe, and then they also offered it to Steven Seagal, uh, who did wanted to rewrite the character and make him a martial artist expert and all this crap, and they said no, we don't want to do that. So they didn't go with that, and they got Danny Glover as the guy. Yeah, which I
Yeah,
think works out best if
I
you're
agree.
going for the average day Joe kind of guy, and he's
Yeah,
definitely that in this. And you have his lifelong partner, not partner in that sense, but work partner. That and you have the action trope where that guy gets killed and he has to go out for revenge for them. Although I don't think his partner at the time that the Predator killed him had a weapon, which makes it kind of interesting.
I think that could probably be explained away because whenever you have the Predator it is invariably sitting in the corner or in somewhere you can't see it. It's already invisible, but it's kind of like watching before it strikes. So perhaps I do believe that there was a scene here where somehow, some way, through its alien thermal vision, it could see that one of the females was pregnant, and left that one be. And I think that female actually had a weapon. I can't remember. I don't think so, but I could be wrong on that. But
she was she was one of the police officers that
that's right.
goes
That's right.
to save Bill Pullman, the other character. Bill Pullman, or not Bill Pullman, but Bill Paxton. He's quite entertaining in this one. He's always entertaining, but
oh yeah, he's good actor.
Yeah,
good at Twister. That was probably, I remember him from that for sure. But yeah, good actor for sure.
One of the movies I would love to recommend for our discussion is Near Dark, but it's a vampire movie that stars Bill Paxton and Lance Herkinson, and but it's near impossible to find right now, so it'd be kind of tricky to discuss that one, but yeah.
I was trying to find something. I thought there was something with a tagline, but I don't see it. I was trying to look through the movie posters, but I thought I had a little bit of thing. But in any case,
I thought it was cute how the movie starts, where they were showing the palm trees and whatnot, making it look like it's a jungle or whatnot, and then they pan up, and then you see Los Angeles, and then you immediately go into this huge gang war that's going on in the future LA, and everything's gone amok, almost Judge Dredd type violence going on in the streets.
I would say that this LA could definitely be. It would be definitely would have been a prelude to Mega City 1, or whatever the LA version. I can't remember, but shame on me for not knowing my Dredd lore a lot more better. But it's been a minute. But in any case, that reminds me, I should review that for our Wednesday show one of these days. But in any case, who can hate on Dredd?
Yeah.
I think I always wanted IDW is better. Any didn't matter, but I could be way wrong on that. But yeah, no. I liked this one for different reasons than the original. Nothing will replace the original, obviously, and none of these movies, neither one of them are phenomenally awesome. I think they're about the same. Yeah, essentially they would be the same on the same scale. You can make an argument for that, but I like this one because it showed different aspects of it, and it was a lot more grittier. And I didn't see it when it came out, but I believe I watched this with my uncle. And I don't think I watched it with my dad, but my uncle was 10 years older than me. So a lot of times he would be the fun uncle to come into town, and we'd rent a movie or something and have a thing, and and just enjoy the hell out of it. I do remember watching this with the grown up, and always like stopping if it was on TV or on replay or something like that. And it definitely exposes a little bit more of the background of the predator and what they are, Yautja, and how they operate a little bit. It kind of, again, less is more. And I love the ending of this movie. The ending was perfect. And I'm not giving away anything for what at this point a 40 30 year plus movie, whatever it is. Yeah, 30 year, a little bit longer than that, but obviously can't do my math. I don't really care. But the point stands is that it kind of operates a little bit better. And if it's not clear, the original Predator, it's kind of like, essentially it's a sore loser. It's funny like how it has this sore loser and then it dies, but then somebody could argue, well, it just doesn't want the humans or the whatever it is to get hold of its technology, I guess. Well, okay, whatever, maybe not, but this one actually has a little bit more analysis on the Predator, because the background is the government kind of sees and understands what's going on with this thing, and they basically know what's going on, and the cops are kind of dumbfounded because they're like, how the hell are you guys know what this is, but you're not doing anything about it? And then there's a big conflict there too. It's just like, just kill the damn thing. Stop studying it. But that's kind of like in a way, it mirrors how evil Wayland Yutani is in the Aliens universe, where like the government is kind of, they don't care. They just want to capture it, and they want it for their own nefarious purposes, presumably, or whatnot. So there's kind of that second layer there, but definitely, if you ever work, if you are watching this in the future, and there's ever a company called Wayland Yutani, don't work for them. Don't trust them, because they are not building better.
Yeah, I saw someone on Facebook that where they worked was they listed as their workplace. So okay, that's funny. But yeah.
Yeah, but this one, I think this is probably going to be a more shorter show because there's not much to go off of. I mean, there is, but there isn't.
This is this movie is a little bit before Gary Busey kind of went off the deep end, and I was
old name and still revered and not reviled, as it were.
And there's these guys I like to watch on YouTube, and one of them was actually a couple of them were on a plane that Gary Busey was on, and he said, one of them said, "It's amazing how fast you go from, oh wow, that's Gary Busey, to, oh yeah, that's Gary Busey."
That's funny.
That he Gary Busey came in, and he was very abusive to the he's kind of just he was Gary Busey to the flight attendant, where he kept saying that he could barely hear, and he yelled most of the time, and he completely tormented the guy, the young businessman that sat next to him, that was just trying to get back home.
That's funny. That's funny.
But yeah, there's actually a I think they animated that, so maybe we could put that in our description down below, as one of the things that you could check out. It's the guys from Rooster Teeth and Achievement Hunter. They're a much bigger channel than us. They're currently owned by Warner Brothers, so way bigger than us.
I will say that on the copyright front, we are 1-0.
Yep.
And whatnot. No thanks to overzealous algorithms and content bots.
Yep. Yeah, and this again is a nice little Disney movie, Predator 2. And the ending of the movie, one of the Predators gives the Danny Glover character a gun from the 1700s, which is supposed to tie into the prequel Prey that's coming out in August.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've read. And I believe the name engraved on the crystal was Adolphus, and I can't remember that.
Yeah, and I also saw where there's a comic book as well that kind of goes into the history of the gun as well. So I don't know if the movie is gonna have the same story or not, but yeah. The new Disney movie that's coming up, Prey, which is a prequel to the Predator movies. They shuttle all their more adult content for Disney over to the Hulu channel.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The Prey one is coming up. Prey 2022. Yeah, and this is kind of like what sparked everything. And your mileage may vary, but I do not hold. And I'm not saying anything original here, but this is one that I'm gonna wait when it comes out, when they really release it for rental or whatever, or what would have been the DVD. Wait for the DVD release for it, so to speak. No longer a thing really. But I just can't. We're not going to rip on it too bad, but
the actress that is the main actress in it is actually pretty good. I liked her in TV show Legion, which is
Okay.
a Marvel joint, as the kids say. It's based on it was done by Fox, because Legion is a X-Men character, New Mutant. Actually, I think he was introduced in New Mutants. But in this the Legion TV series is actually really good. It kind of goes into the character. However, they did it a little bit differently in that
Interesting.
the comic book character Legion is the son of Professor X, which is not
Really?
the case. Which is not the case in the TV series. He's sort of a character unto himself, and it's the Legion TV series is a little trippy. It kind of goes into the idea of whether or not he's kind of crazy. It takes place in a mental institution. At least it starts off there. And the show's actually the creator of the show also does the Fargo TV series, and this one has very much a Wes Anderson sort of style as far as its look and kind of feel to it. So it's kind of quirky, but it goes into some very interesting places. And by the end of it, goes very deep. It kind of starts off more humorous than dark, but by the end of it, it goes completely dark. So
That's
to speak.
awesome. I had no idea this existed. That's
Mhm.
awesome. This is why I love this, because even though maybe not into what we pick for our main show, but that's why we let our little tangents go a little bit longer, because invariably these are all interconnected in some way, and we will find and slice off some kind of goodness and recommend it for sure. I got to get into this one. I had no idea. I had no clue that this was even a thing. That's crazy. But this is a good, strong show for sure.
Yeah,
Sounds
definitely.
like cool.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to our to the why we're kind of going in here. Like I'm sorry, I am going to take a couple pot shots very lightly, but I just can't. And this isn't the trailer. This is right off the bat. Like this is kind of like one of the. This is an image they want you to see forefront. They want you to kind of see that the what's going on, and you can clearly see that this is different than what you normally have. But I'm sorry, I can't. The lip gloss. Come on, man. I'm sorry, I can't. I just can't. Like, don't. No, come on. And I don't even know what it is, but it's definitely not anywhere near modern day, or even anywhere close to it. It's set back in the.
You don't think the Native Americans had like herbs or whatever that could
No, not at all.
use as a gloss?
No. And the thing that kind of makes me sad, and I don't want to prejudge it too much, but I am. And if I hear from people that I respect, and they say go see this, it'll knock your socks off. Great, wonderful. But going into it, for this. The thing is, on paper, the way that Predator works, this would have been amazing, or could be amazing. For all I know, maybe it is, but I really doubt it. Just kind of seeing it, I just, not getting into the weeds of the thing, but it's just like, come on. There's some things that make sense, and some things that don't make any damn sense. But you know what? Maybe I'm wrong, and we'll see. But I'm not going to be the canary in the coal mine to. I've got, if anything is one thing is good in this modern day era of remakes, endless remakes and whatnot, and acting and everything else, you kind of have to develop a good sense for, like, I hate that it's like this in some ways, but it's just like, I don't want to get into a thing that's just going to crush my time, and I'm just going to be disappointed after. Like, look, I started when we started this podcast. We don't have infinite time in the world. We all have lives, and we when we sit down, we want to be entertained. We want to see good. It doesn't have to be award winning, for God's sakes, but you just want, like you say, you frame it perfectly. Give me a good storyline, regardless of whatever is going on, with some decent acting, That part you didn't add, but it goes without saying. But give me a good storyline and let me enjoy it. Don't pat me on the head and explain every little detail to me, or whatever, or just baby spoon feeding. That's what it kind of feels
Right.
like nowadays. But
Well, and a lot of the modern movies want to explain why, it's important that this is a female character and that women have, if there's a moment where girl power, there's a scene in Avengers Endgame where all the female characters step to the forefront all together, and it was like this supposed to be this big moment, and for me it was like a big cringe moment. It was like, okay, whatever.
right.
You don't have, if you are that important and that powerful, you don't have to say it. Is all I have to say.
I agree. I think it just this trend. I think it's being called out a lot more, and it has nothing to do with culture wars or anything like that. It's just like people are tired. But I even from the stalwarts that are the most positive YouTubers that I can find. And I've recommended a few over the years, or excuse me, over the weeks and months that we've done this. But I like to try. I don't. Yes, I enjoy the popcorn. I hate it too. Tell me why. Kind of that hate watch kind of thing going on a little bit, just for entertainment's sake, just for a little bit. But I also like to find the good, more positive, YouTubers out there who are in the confluence of comic books or sci-fi or this or that. And I think people are starting to. It's not just beyond like a title. I'm not going to repeat the title, but they say do this and then you're going to lose out all your money, essentially. But I think that's true. I think that like the audience is not stupid, and don't stop treating us like we're stupid. And just put on a good storyline. There's wonderful things that you can do for if you want to have a more whatever kind of cast, you can do that. But the actors and the social consciousness and whatever has to take a backseat to the story. If it's any other kind of way or shape or form, it's just not gonna stick around. And in 20 years, maybe I'm wrong, but in 20, 30 years, people are not going to be talking about Avengers Endgame. It's not going to be like that because one, there's too many of them, and two, there's anyway. We're getting far afield, but in any case, hey,
and just to prove your point, I was reading the Incredible Hulk series by Peter David, and there's a couple of issues where he gets kind of political and kind of makes remarks about the Clinton administration, which was the the president at the time, Bill Clinton. And those moments are so cringe now. It's like, it's like, why is that there?
Right.
So that's probably how people are going to look back on some of the forced in stuff that they've done nowadays.
Yeah, and now that I'm seeing this, I believe that this is not even in the same. It's not even. This would be like welterweight division if we're talking boxing, and then Predator 2 would be the heavyweights, maybe middleweights, but this is like welterweight, semi-pro boxing because it's not even being released in theaters. It looks like it's just being released on direct release to Hulu. So that explains a lot of the corners cut and kind of thing. They're excited. It's good enough to put out and produce, but it's not quite good enough to do full on marketing and full on whatever, aside from like the blogosphere or the YouTube sphere that kind of talk about this. But in any case, I don't.
Well, and it's probably a lot of it. You kind of have to kind of do a movie every so often to keep the copyright or the franchise going. Right. So, it could very well be just sort of a spend a few bucks to keep the franchise going. For maybe a bigger movie later on down the line.
Right.
And they call it Prey instead of Predator, 5 or whatever it would be. So you don't even have to tie it to Predator. They're promoting it as a Predator movie, but it's going to be prey, so that when they come up with a predator number whatever, they can make a bigger deal about it, because it's a predator movie, whereas this is prey.
Right. Yeah. But essentially, you take something that you could be overly negative on and use that same energy and kind of, well, where did this come from? Well, this came from Predator. So let's focus on the good, on the things that are near and dear and loved by the fandom, by the nerdom. And Predator is one of them. Predator 2. I love them for different reasons. I think they do justice to that kind of storyline where you have an alien hunting everyone down, but in a different way. Aliens is the same concept, just from a slightly different standpoint. It's a little bit more personal and intimate, whereas Aliens is more of like just sheer friggin' terror from that, and that's rightly earned. And some would argue Aliens, I believe, is one of the best horror sci-fi movies ever created. And I think it definitely warrants that label for sure. But in any case, rarely do you have that blending of something like horror and sci-fi in that movie. But case in point, to kind of firm up the end, or unless we have a little bit more to talk about, but that is essentially what Predator is. Predator is a perfect parts of action and sci-fi, blended together in the era that it was, for sure, knitted together, and it's for the most part to the test of time. It's not going to be like I said, none of these things are award winning, but that's not why they make them. There's a whole lot of other movies they make that they've churned out. Hollywood has, but this was always a favorite. God, I just remember this is one of the favorites. Predator 2, really any of them when it would come up on. I think this was when FX was newer, and I was more of an adult, and I had cable. But anyway, it's just one of those fun movies. It's a random Tuesday night or Wednesday night, nothing's going on, and it comes on. Hell yeah, I want to watch it.
Yeah.
Versus something else. But that's why I like to recommend these two for sure. And I'm glad that you got a chance to see them.
Yep.
and go from there. But with that being said, I think we've kind of done all we can for these movies. But I'll stay corrected if Prey is good. Good enough, you never know. There's always that ending there. And despite my surface optimism, with lip gloss and all that horse crap, taking it seriously. But then again, at the same time, essentially, you have a time traveling, alien from another thing. So it's just like, well, how much do you want to do on fiction? And the answer is quite a bit. So that's, today was the longest day of the year, and if you want to spend some time indoors in the summer, you can go wrong with Predator. Obviously, age appropriate, for you're not going to be sitting here 5 years in front of us. Your knowledge will vary. But anything else to add, or any icing on the cake?
No, just watch out for that triangle on your head if the predator shows up. But and shout out to Carl Weathers. We didn't mention him, but he did a stellar job as the sort of slimy military guy that maybe not up to the best of intentions in the Predator.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he has a hell of a track record for movies too. A good one. All the Rockies, Happy Gilmore. That's a favorite Predator, obviously. But yeah, definitely check out any of his stuff for sure. And with that being said, I've been Mike Shaw, and
Thomas.
and we'll see you next time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that jazz.
Please do.
Yep.
Thank you.